everyone. Thanks for clicking on that video and welcome to chapter 2 of my stories about life and what I have gone through. If you're new here, I made an introduction video explaining why I'm actually doing this. So if you want to go back and watch that video, that's fine, and you can come back later. But just as a brief overview, I have written a book in 3 parts and I'm ready to share part 1, Anything Dear. And it's about my past and what shaped me, and I put it in stories, different themes of connection, emotional suffering, my personal belief system, etc. And I'm ready now to take you on the journey with me through the chapter of emotional suffering called Prometheus. So, long story short, let's just dive in. Chapter 2, Prometheus, the story of recurring pain. I would have liked to think of myself as someone who's got his life figured out. Someone who could say, I knew exactly what I wanted when I was 12 and then simply go for it. Someone with inspiring determination, leading them to getting it and by that ending up happy. A person that I like to think of as got it all and being whole. But that was just not me. I didn't have it all, and I for sure wasn't whole. Rather, I have lived most of my life in a dichotomy. I felt like Buridan's donkey, the hungry donkey that would find himself placed between 2 balls of hay of equal size and in the same distance to them. The donkey that was evaluating the situation and simply could not decide. The donkey that in theory would be paralyzed by indecision and as a result would starve to death. That was me. I was that donkey, and so I starved myself. I starved myself of life. 2 balls of hay, not knowing which one would satisfy my hunger. 2 balls of hay, 2 options, not knowing which one to gravitate to. One being the person I should become, the things I should do, and the other being the person I feel to be, need to be, and long to be. The evaluation process was hard, exhausting, and indeed paralyzing. I know, because I have lived in the state of paralysis for the bigger part of my life. This back and forth, not really choosing one version of me fully, brought me misery. Living in the state of indecisiveness, I did not end up being happy. I ended up finding myself in a vast space of nothingness, a limbo of some sort. No place to go, no place to hide. Every decision I made, every attempt at choosing 1 ball of hay seemed to backfire. It kept me in a loop of sorrow, despair, and pain. It seemed like a test by life itself. Choose right and you'll be rewarded. Make the wrong decision and you'll be punished. And so I chose, but apparently I chose wrong every single time. And so I got punished every single time. Choices in personal relationships, in daily choices, choices when it came to professional life. The nature of the choice did not really matter much. I still kept choosing wrong. And as years fell, one after another, it got discouraging and pointless making a decision because I knew how it was going to end. I knew I would pick wrong and I knew I would get punished for it. I just kept losing and life was laughing. It was a lot, and in my mind the suffering just would not stop. The burden of me, the burden of not knowing what I could or should do with life, every part that was a reflection of myself became unbearable. The emotional, physical, and mental pain just kept growing and growing, and I truly felt the heaviness of air around me. I could sense the suffering becoming worse, heavier, more prominent. It had built up so much to a point that I could only see struggles and fights for survival. All situations, all challenges, dare I say punishments, I had to endure imprinted the question of, why me? For sure, there had been great moments of joy, laughter, and easiness in life, because there were a few minor decisions I made where I apparently chose right. But my gaze and focus shifted always towards the negative, the punishments. It was so easy to only see the punishments in hard times because it had occupied so much space in my life up to this point. All the happiness and good times were hidden, out of sight and therefore out of mind. As a victim of life, as what I thought of myself to be, I would forget that happiness was even omnipresent and accessible to me. Punishment was something I put into the equation for my life. Life equals Philip plus punishment. There was no indication nor need for me to separate all the variables and look at them one by one. I believed that I was destined for a life of tragedy, misery, and hopelessness. How could it be any different? I mean, my mind made sense of everything that had happened to me, every outcome of the choices I made, so that it simply just connected the dots. My experiences were the dots, and my thoughts the connector. But it would not stop there. Since I'm part of life, part of my life, I subconsciously disregarded the variable Philip in the equation. Philip just blurted out and manifested as an invisible part of the equation. Depending on the day and mood, the equation would shift, add and subtract things, but the older I got, the more I experienced, the more the form of the equation changed. It started to look like life equals punishment. Over time, the parts life and punishment would fuse together and morph into this behemoth. Life became solely negative and tormented, and I started to use and think of them as inseparable, as synonyms. There was no one without the other. They were inseparably linked to one another. They say thoughts shape your reality, so my thoughts shape this reality for me. At that moment, the invisible underlying variable, Philip, me, resurfaced. Since life became identical with punishment, it just had to, I guess. You cannot have an equation with only one variable. So it happened. The variable Philip now again became a visible and present part of the equation. Philip equals life of punishment. It made sense to me because, after all, it fed the victim personality I had come to believe and identify with. It did not seem fair, not at all, not one bit. I always wanted to make the right decision, at least what I thought was right. I never meant any harm by the choices I made, because why would I choose wrong? On purpose. But still, it just turned back on me. It's like Prometheus' fate bringing fire to the people and being punished for it. You know, his conscious decision of trying to do the right thing, of trying to choose right. So Prometheus chose, but apparently he chose wrong. And so he got punished. A life sentence of being chained to a rock and having to suffer day by day. The superficial, soothing words, tomorrow is another day, surely is a nice sentiment but holds no existential value when waiting for a tomorrow seems to take forever and feels like it will never arrive. For some reason, I was expecting life to have beautiful, carefree, and joyful things in store for me. You know, the easy path of life, a life filled with goodness. And with the expectation of positive things should always happen to me because why not? I deserve it. That somehow became the baseline, the version of life to me. The privileged sense of a good life, accompanied by the thought of, I deserve the best and nothing but the best. But with every challenge, with every choice I made, with every negative and moment of punishment, my world got shaken up. The expected natural flow of life, the heartbeat of life, had been interrupted. Disturbance in the natural flow of just choosing right. Because I expected to always choose right and life to treat me well, and doing the things doing the things I thought would be good for me, the tough times became the main plot of my story, my personal history. My life, as I have come to know, could not continue the same way as it had. I wanted it to change, and I needed it to change too. Something needed to happen because I could not see myself in a future where there's only punishment in store for me. The dissatisfaction with life, with my life, grew stronger. But why would this even be? If I was sentenced to suffer like Prometheus, and if I would have to experience recurring pain over and over again, how come this longing for a change would even show itself? I had come to learn that this was just the way my life would unfold for me. Wrong choices and punishments as a result. So how come this overwhelming sensation of how could this go on for so long? How come it won't come to an end? Echoed louder inside of me. My life was running in a loop that just happened to have me in it. Round and round, there I went. Beginning and end, no difference, same place. But finally something cracked and let light shine on the loophole. Small and seemingly insignificant at first, but just like the flower of the sun,